I walked out of my wedding after the best man's cruel prank humiliated me in front of everyone. Some moments in life burn so brightly, both with joy and pain, that they stay with you forever, etched into your memory like a scar. For me, that moment came on what was supposed to be the happiest day of my life, my wedding day. I'm Claire, a 24-year-old from a small town in Oregon, and 7 months ago, I walked away from my own wedding. Leaving my fiancé at the altar after a cruel prank shattered my heart in front of everyone I loved. But to understand why I did it, I need to take you back to the beginning of a relationship that started with butterflies and ended in betrayal. I met Michael when I was 20, a junior in college studying graphic design. He was 23, charming, with a laugh that could light up a room and a knack for making everyone feel like they were the only person in the world. We met at a mutual friend's birthday party, a backyard barbecue with string lights, the smell of grilled burgers, and a playlist of 90s hits playing through a crackling speaker. I was sipping a lemonade, feeling a little out of place among the crowd, when Michael walked over, a beer in hand, and struck up a conversation about my favorite band. By the end of the night, we were slow dancing under the stars, his arms warm around me, and I thought I'd found my soulmate. But the fairy tale didn't last. A few months in, the cracks started to show. Michael had a best friend, Trevor, a 25-year-old loudmouth who worked as a car salesman and had a talent for making everyone around him feel small. Trevor would mock my dreams of starting my own design business, calling it cute in a way that made my skin crawl, and Michael would just laugh, brushing it off as Trevor being Trevor. Over time, Michael started to change too. He'd dismiss my feelings, telling me I was too sensitive when I got upset, and belittle my ambitions, saying I'd never make it as a freelancer because I wasn't cut out for the real world. I'd spend nights crying in our shared apartment, the walls, paper, thin, the sound of the neighbor's dog barking keeping me awake, as I wondered what I was doing wrong. My family saw the red flags too. My mom, Ellen, a 50-year-old nurse with a no-nonsense attitude, warned me about Michael early on. "He doesn't respect you, Claire," she'd say, her voice soft but firm, as she chopped vegetables for dinner in her cozy kitchen, the smell of garlic and rosemary filling the air. My dad, Robert, a 53-year-old mechanic who's more comfortable fixing cars than talking about feelings, would just grunt and say, "You deserve better, kiddo." Even my little brother, Ethan, a 17-year-old high school junior with a passion for skateboarding, tried to talk to me. "He's a jerk, Claire," he said one day, kicking his skateboard against the curb outside our parents' house. "Why do you let him treat you like that?" But I stayed. I told myself I loved Michael, that he'd change, that I could fix him. I ignored the way my best friend, Sophie, a 24-year-old barista with a sharp wit and a heart of gold, would roll her eyes every time Michael made a snide comment at a group hangout. I ignored the way my stomach twisted every time Trevor humiliated me in front of our friends, like the time he jokingly spilled a drink on me at a party and laughed while I stood there, soaked and mortified. I even ignored my own instincts, the ones screaming at me to run. And so, when Michael proposed last year, I said yes, hoping marriage would magically fix everything. The morning of my wedding was a blur of nerves and excitement, the kind of day I dreamed about since I was a little girl. It was a warm June afternoon, the sky, a perfect blue, and the venue a charming outdoor garden with rose bushes and a wooden arch draped in white flowers vase straight out of a Pinterest board. I stood in the bridal suite, a small room off the garden with lace curtains and a vanity mirror, slipping into my dress. It was a simple, elegant gown with a lace bodice and a flowing train, the kind of dress that made me feel like a princess. Sophie was there, helping me pin my veil, her hands steady as she adjusted the delicate fabric. "You look beautiful, Claire," she said, her voice soft, but there was a flicker of worry in her eyes that I chose to ignore. My family was there too, bustling around the venue. Mom was fussing over the flower arrangements, making sure every petal was in place, while Dad was outside, helping the caterers set up the reception tables, his sleeves rolled up despite the heat. Ethan was running around with his skateboard, sneaking bites of the mini sandwiches meant for the guests, his tie already crooked. My Aunt Linda, a 47-year-old florist with a laugh that could fill a room, was arranging the centerpieces, chatting animatedly with the photographer, a young woman named Mia, who was snapping candid shots of the setup. Everything felt perfect until it wasn't. The ceremony started beautifully. I walked down the aisle on Dad's arm, the soft notes of a violin playing as I stepped onto the petal-strewn path. Michael was waiting at the altar, looking handsome in his tux, his dark hair slicked back, a smile on his face. But as I got closer, I noticed Trevor standing beside him as the best man, a smirk on his face that made my stomach churn. I tried to focus on Michael, on the vows we were about to exchange, on the life we were supposed to build together. The officiant, a kind older man named Mr. Harper, began the ceremony, his voice warm and steady as he spoke about love and commitment. But then, just as we reached the part where we were supposed to say our vows, Trevor stepped forward, holding a microphone he'd grabbed from the sound system. "Hold on, everyone," he said, his voice booming through the garden, a grin spreading across his face. "I've got a little announcement to make." The guests, about 80 people, a mix of family and friends, fell silent, their eyes on Trevor. I felt a cold dread settle in my chest as he gestured to the side of the garden, where a woman I'd never seen before stepped forward. She was tall, with dark hair, and she was holding a small bouquet of flowers, her expression nervous. "This is Michael's real girlfriend," Trevor said, his voice dripping with mock seriousness. "And she's got something to tell him." The woman hesitated, then spoke into the microphone, her voice shaky. "Michael, I couldn't let you go through with this. I love you, and I thought you should know I'm here for you." A gasp rippled through the crowd, and I felt my knees buckle. I looked at Michael, waiting for him to deny it, to tell Trevor to stop, but he was laughing. He doubled over, clutching his stomach, tears streaming down his face as he laughed so hard he could barely breathe. Trevor joined in, slapping Michael on the back, and then he turned to the crowd, grinning. "Just kidding, folks, it's a prank! You should have seen your faces!" The guests erupted into a mix of nervous laughter and murmurs, but I couldn't hear anything over the roaring in my ears. I stood there, my bouquet trembling in my hands, my face burning with humiliation. Sophie, who was standing behind me as my maid of honor, grabbed my arm, her nails digging into my skin. "Claire, you don't have to do this," she whispered, her voice fierce. I looked at Michael, still laughing, and Trevor, who was now taking a bow like he'd just performed a comedy routine. And in that moment, something inside me snapped. I couldn't take it anymore, not the years of disrespect, not the constant belittling, not this final, cruel humiliation in front of everyone I loved. I turned and walked back down the aisle, my dress trailing behind me, the petals crunching under my heels. I could hear Mom calling my name, her voice panicked, and Ethan shouting something I couldn't make out, but I didn't stop. I kept walking, past the stunned guests, past the rose bushes, past the life I'd thought I wanted, until I reached my car in the parking lot. I drove away, tears streaming down my face, the sound of Michael's laughter echoing in my mind. If this story is shocking you as much as it shocked me, hit that like button, and let me know in the comments, what would you do if someone humiliated you like this on your wedding day? I didn't know where I was going when I left the wedding, I just knew I had to get away. I drove for hours, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white, my wedding dress bunched up around me in the driver's seat. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, and I eventually pulled into a small motel off the highway, the neon sign flickering in the dusk. The clerk, an older woman with a kind smile and a name tag that read, Doris, didn't bat an eye at my tear-streaked face or the gown I was still wearing. "Rough day, huh?" she said softly, handing me a key. I nodded, unable to speak, and shuffled to my room. A small space with faded wallpaper and a lumpy bed that smelled faintly of cigarette smoke. I stayed there for 3 weeks, cutting off contact with everyone. I turned off my phone, ignoring the dozens of missed calls and texts from Michael, Trevor, my parents, even Sophie. I needed time to cry, to scream into the pillow, to piece myself back together after years of emotional abuse had left me hollow. I spent my days walking along the highway, the hum of passing cars, a strange kind of comfort, and my nights staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment of my relationship with Michael. I thought about all the times he dismissed my feelings, all the times Trevor had humiliated me, all the times I'd let them. I felt like a fool for staying so long, for thinking I could change him, for believing love was enough. When I finally turned my phone back on, the messages came flooding in. Most were from Michael, a mix of apologies and excuses. "It was just a joke, Claire, you're overreacting. I love you, come back, we can fix this." But there were others. 2 from Trevor. He'd been relentless, texting me over and over, saying he was sorry, that he didn't mean to hurt me, that he could fix things between me and Michael. I deleted them all, my hands shaking with anger. I didn't want his apologies. I didn't want anything from him. I moved back to my parents' house temporarily, needing the comfort of home as I figured out my next steps. Mom and Dad were supportive, though I could tell they were struggling with their own guilt for not pushing harder to get me out of the relationship sooner. "We should have done more," Mom said one night, her hands wrapped around a mug of chamomile tea, the kitchen lit by the soft glow of the overhead light. Dad just hugged me, his calloused hands rough but warm, and said, "You're strong, kiddo. You'll get through this." Ethan took to sleeping on the couch in the living room, saying he wanted to keep an eye out in case Michael showed up, his skateboard propped against the wall like a makeshift weapon. But Michael didn't show up. It was Trevor who wouldn't leave me alone. He started calling my friends, showing up at the coffee shop where I worked part-time, even getting his coworkers to message me, begging me to give Michael another chance. He'd stand outside the shop, his hands in his pockets, watching me through the window until my manager, a gruff 40-year-old named Tony, told him to leave. Trevor's obsession with fixing things was suffocating, and it was taking a toll on my mental health. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, couldn't stop looking over my shoulder every time I left the house. Finally, I'd had enough. I went to the police and filed for a protective order, my hands steady as I signed the paperwork, a small act of reclaiming my power. With the protective order in place, Trevor finally backed off, but I knew I needed to confront Michael one last time to make sure it stayed that way. I arranged to meet him at a park near my parents' house, a quiet spot with a duck pond and a wooden bench where we used to sit when we first started dating. It was a chilly January afternoon, the air crisp, the ground dusted with a light layer of snow. I sat on the bench, my coat wrapped tightly around me, my breath visible in the cold air, and waited. Michael showed up a few minutes later, his hands shoved in his pockets, his face pale and drawn. He looked different, smaller, somehow, like the weight of everything had finally caught up with him. "Claire," he said, sitting down beside me, keeping a careful distance. "I'm so sorry. I didn't realize how much I hurt you." I looked at him, searching his face for the man I'd once loved. But all I saw was a stranger. I took a deep breath, my voice steady. "I didn't come here to hear your apologies, Michael," I said. "I came to tell you that if Trevor doesn't stop harassing me, I'll take it further. The protective order is just the beginning. I'll press charges if I have to. You need to make him stop." Michael nodded quickly, his eyes wide. "I'll talk to him," he said. "I promise, Claire. It'll stop." I studied him for a moment, then stood up, brushing the snow off my coat. "I hope so," I said. "Because I'm done, Michael. I'm done with you, with Trevor, with all of it. I deserve better." I walked away, my boots crunching in the snow, and for the first time in months, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. True to his word, Michael must have talked to Trevor, because the harassment stopped. No more calls, no more visits, no more messages. It was like a dark cloud had finally lifted, leaving me room to breathe. In the months since, I've been focusing on healing. I moved into a small apartment of my own, a cozy space with big windows and a tiny balcony where I can sit with a cup of coffee and watch the sunrise. I started therapy, working through the years of emotional abuse and learning to trust myself again. Sophie has been my rock, showing up with takeout and bad rom-coms on the nights when I feel overwhelmed, her laughter a reminder that I'm not alone. My family has been there too. Mom and Dad check in on me every few days, and Ethan started leaving little notes on my fridge when he visits. Silly things like, "You're a badass, sis," that make me smile. I'm proud of myself for walking away that day, for choosing my peace over a lifetime of pain. It hasn't been easy. There are still nights when I wake up with Michael's laughter echoing in my dreams, moments when I second-guess myself, wondering if I could have done things differently. But then I look at the life I'm building, the person I'm becoming, and I know I made the right choice. I'm learning to love myself again, to set boundaries, to believe that I deserve so much more than what I settled for. And that, more than anything, feels like a victory. You enjoyed this crazy story. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell for more Reddit tales. What would you have done if you were in my shoes? Let me know in the comments. I can't wait to hear your thoughts.